Hi everyone, Game Chicken here, for something a little bit different. I'm not one for doing these expose videos, but this is about a channel that is very near and dear to me. Cinemassacre might be a name unfamiliar to most, but this channel spawned one of the internet's most recognizable gaming personalities, the Angry Video Game Nerd. For a long time, the Angry Video Game Nerd was at the top of his game, being one of the most subscribed YouTube channels at one point. The AVGN was an internet phenomenon. No one really had a bad thing to say about the nerd until something happened. Something that drastically changed the direction the channel was going in. Something that triggered the downfall of the channel. Now don't get me wrong, the AVGN and Cinemassacre still have a legion of fans eating up every bit of content they shit out. But you can't deny that the quality of said content has gone down significantly. Many factors are believed to be involved in this drop of quality, such as shady business practices, a new company taking over, and some other strange incidents. Rest assured, I'll be going through all of these in great detail, but first, let me provide a brief summary of the nerd's rise to success. Let me take you back to the past, where I'm gonna educate your dumbass. Sorry. Ass! Let's go back to the year 2006. James Rolfe makes his first YouTube account under the name James Nintendo Nerd on April 7th of that year. The first AVGN episode ever made is the classic Simon's Quest episode.
This game sucks.
Who remembers watching this as a kid? It was mind-blowing. What's even more mind-blowing was that the Angry Nintendo Nerd, as he was named back then, was only meant to be a one-time character. James Rolfe only filmed 2 videos of the nerd character, one being the Simon's Quest episode and the other being the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde episode. These videos weren't even given the Angry Nintendo Nerd title, but were instead titled Bad NES Games. These episodes were actually filmed 2 years before the creation of his YouTube channel, so the nerd was a concept created by James back in 2004. His friends loved the 2 Angry Nerd videos and encouraged him to create more, so he did. With help from his friend, Mike Matei, production on many more Angry Nintendo Nerd videos began, and so began a golden age. There are so many classic nerd episodes. My personal favourites are the Castlevania retrospective videos and the Bible game series. What are your favourites? Write in the comments below. Now that was just the start of the channel. As of today, there are currently 192 episodes of the Angry Video Game Nerd, plus many other video series such as Board Games, Rental Reviews, You Know What's Bullshit, Monster Madness, and many more. As you can see, the channel grew beyond the Angry Video Game Nerd pretty quickly, but the main draw was always the nerd that loved to use swear words. The channel eventually became known as just Cinemassacre, to house all the other projects that James and co were working on. Most of his other projects were also much loved. Most of them. I'll get to the somewhat lackluster ones later. James Rolfe was riding the gravy train of success. He was working for the now defunct Screw Attack. Fans were donating games and consoles for his ever-growing retro collection, and every video that came out was hit after hit. It seemed like things were only ever going up. Something happened though. Something that shook the channel to its very core. An event that changed the course James Rolfe and Cinemassacre would go down forever. What was that event? 3 words. Feature length film. Ass! It's no secret to most Cinemassacre fans that James Rolfe has aspired to be a professional filmmaker since he was a child. I mean, you can go to his website and see his filmography, which apparently comprises of over 500 movies. It looks really impressive at a first glance, but when you realise that his very first movie, Jimmy Rolfe vs. the Punching Bag, is like 20 seconds long or something, you should probably take that number with a very big grain of salt. No offense to James or anything, but I wouldn't really consider that, or many other of the entries on this list, a film. Anyway, judging by this massive filmography, I'd say that his biggest dream was to make a feature film that everyone would love. Critical acclaim, Oscars, awards, recognition, celebrity status, who doesn't want that? Well, with how the AVGN was going, that goal was suddenly a lot more attainable. Work on the AVGN movie started as early as 2006 following the success of the web series. The script was finished in 2008, but due to James devoting most of his time to the aforementioned web series, filming of the movie wouldn't start until April 2012. The filming was done pretty quickly, wrapping up in the month after. The production of the film was finally done in December of 2013. The film had a budget of $325,000, all from crowdfunding. I will admit, I was pretty excited at the prospect of an AVGN movie coming out. It's not a terrible idea. It had great potential. Since you're in the future now, I'll tell you how good the movie was. It stunk.
It stinks. It stinks. It stinks.
Now, I've only watched it once. It was a couple of years ago, so my memory is a bit hazy, but the movie just wasn't good. I don't think it was terrible or the worst thing on earth, but it certainly isn't worth your time. You'd be better off watching like 9 of the classic AVGN episodes. While my opinion on it is pretty meh, some people absolutely despised this movie, saying it was a shitload of fuck, or diarrhea fuck farts, you know, the usual criticisms. It just isn't memorable. Many fans were not happy and were left jilted with the good money they spent funding this lemon. I could go on critiquing the movie and its many problems, but maybe I'll save that for another video. Now, I don't have any rock hard concrete evidence that this movie was a big contributor to the downfall of Cinemassacre, but many people have theorized that this movie damaged the ego and confidence of James Rolfe. I think he was thoroughly convinced that this movie was going to be an overnight success, and his career was going to take off because of it. But obviously, it didn't. The AVGN movie was the start of James Rolfe's resentment of the nerd character, and it does show. I don't know what many people consider the start of the drop in quality, but I consider episode 100 as the beginning of the end. While I do appreciate the amount of work that went into the Rob the Robot episode, I feel like this episode was more flash but very little substance. I enjoyed the nerd the most when he's sitting in front of the TV getting too upset at what's going on, not when he's battling giant robots. It seemed to be more of a graphical showcase than a funny video. Don't get me wrong, there are many decent videos after this one, but I feel like this video marks the loss of creative focus. I feel like another video where things kind of flew off the handle was episode 143, the Sega Activator episode. The fanbase seemed to be divided on this one. One half loves it and the other half hates it. I'm more in the hate group on this one. It just seems really pointless, like they're just destroying shit. I'm aware that some people like videos in this style, but it personally just isn't for me. I skip this one every time I'm marathoning the AVGN videos. This to me marks where the quality of the nerd videos took a steep dive. So I feel like there's no doubt that the movie played a great part in the eventual decline of Cinemassacre's quality standards. But what else happened?
Ass!
Mike Matei is James Rolfe's longtime friend and work colleague.
The blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
For the first few years of the AVGN series, Mike mostly worked behind the scenes, helping with production, drawing up title cards for episodes, and dressing up as characters every now and again. Who doesn't love seeing Mike in that Bugs Bunny costume? Anyway, Mike put in a great deal of work into the nerd, with some theorizing that the character of the nerd is actually based on Mike Matei himself. I could totally believe it. Have you seen some of his streams? He goes absolutely fucking berserk at times. He's like the AVGN times 10. Seriously, look at these clips from his girlfriend's streams. He's so fucking loud. Keep in mind that he's in another part of the house.
You think I could clear it just fine? Okay, yeah, I'd probably try it again. You guys hear Mike? So he's playing a Castlevania hack, right? This is a house of madness.
Like, what the fuck? If you didn't know they were together, you'd think she lives near a mental hospital or something. There's no doubt that a lot of the bitterness and anger comes from James Rolfe's experience with certain games as a child, but I feel like a lot of the energy behind the AVGN is straight from Big Mikey himself. Mike Matei wouldn't make his first appearance on the channel until 2009 as the character Motherfucker Mike, which is pretty much himself in the Board James Crossfire episode. Mike would make sporadic appearances on the channel with his own solo content, such as the critically acclaimed video and darling of the YouTube community, Minecraft with Gadget. Seriously, this video was so bad that Mike himself actually removed it from the channel. That was until he re-uploaded the video in May 2020. At least he can laugh at himself. The video has gotten a cult following, with many proposing that the video is so bad that it's transcended bad and become great as a result. It's honestly pretty funny and I'm glad he re-uploaded it. He's mostly known for James and Mike Mondays, a segment that started in late 2012 where he and James would shoot the shit whilst playing a video game. It became a pretty successful series and became a staple of the channel up until it ended in 2020 after 380 episodes. As much as I abhor some of Mike's escapades, he's honestly pretty charismatic and entertaining to watch. Nonetheless, Mike has a reputation of acting up quite a bit, especially online. I'm not going to list every bad thing he's done, but I will mention what I think are the most important ones. Sometime in 2017, fans discovered that in August of 2004, Mike Matei had a website for a comic strip he created named The Loco Bandito. It sounds pretty cute until you read some of the strips. I can't really show the full thing on YouTube because most of these are pretty fucking offensive and I'm pretty sure my channel would get reprimanded for even having some of these words on screen. The Loco Bandito is a character that is racist, vile, disgusting, and offensive in every sense of the word. Now I will admit that I'm a pretty big fan of edgy and tasteless humour, but the Loco Bandito is just obnoxious and not well executed whatsoever. Mike has never really talked about the Loco Bandito at length, but I think he has expressed regret over the character, which is good I suppose. For those who don't know what this is referring to, this is about a costume that is featured in the AVGN Star Trek episode, specifically a Klingon costume that Mike is wearing at the beginning of the episode. Apparently Mike commissioned a lady to create the costume for $150, a real bargain. Dissatisfied of how long the work was taking, Mike instead opted to buy one himself, pretty much screwing the old lady in the process. She paid for the materials out of her own pocket, believing that he would pay for the costume, but he didn't. This is a pretty dick move, and as far as I know, this has never been rectified. The video in question is already pretty bad, like it's just Mike sitting on the couch complaining about a kids movie, which is bad enough. But then he takes it too far, like uncomfortably too far, by joking about pedophilia. Now I will say, jokes about pedophilia can be done right, but the way Mike goes about it is just cringy and makes you feel gross. I wouldn't watch the video if I were you, but if you're morbidly curious, I'll leave the link in the description.
Self-confidence, Elmo's gonna fucking blow his fucking brains away with this gun.
Elmo's fucking emo.
Elmo has to slit his fucking wrists. Elmo doesn't have a blanket. I have to slit my fucking Elmo wrist now.
You need to shut the fuck up!
Now here's the big one, no pun intended. I mean, this is the most infamous event in Cinemassacre history. I can give my own personal account on this, as I saw the lead up to this disgusting but momentous occasion. I used to follow Cinemassacre on Tumblr, and one of the things that you can do on Tumblr is ask questions anonymously or not. The Cinemassacre account wouldn't get many questions, but when it did, they were mostly about Mike's allegedly giant dick. Now, there was already plenty of photo evidence online that suggested that Mike was blessed with a big sausage, but Mike went one step further. Sometime in April 2017, Mike posted a picture on the Cinemassacre subreddit of what looked like an elephant trunk, alongside some measuring tape. On closer inspection, people were shocked to see that this wasn't an elephant trunk, but a penis. Now there's a lot to unpack here, but let me just say this. Why would you post your cock on Reddit? Like, what was his thought process here? Like, oh man, like I'm so sick of people asking about my junk, so let me just post it on the official subreddit. There. Has anyone else ever done this? I cannot think of any other content creator who has decided to post their junk in public. I can definitely think of some who have done it in private, but let's not get into that. Not to mention that the community in question isn't age-gated, so there's a pretty good chance that he exposed his wiener to some minors, which would technically make him a sex offender or a pedophile.
How you doing? Alright, how are you? Have a seat over in that chair, please.
Fuck!
They're called private parts for a reason, Mike. I don't think a lot of Cinemassacre fans will easily forget about that schlong. Now this one is just weird. Apparently on Reddit and some other social media sites, Mike has an alt account that usually goes by the name of Elvis8 Atari. This guy would go on posts that were mainly trashing Cinemassacre and defend them vehemently. Someone noticed that he did this on almost any post that criticised Cinemassacre in some way. So they did some digging and found out a website dedicated to one Atari 2600 game named Kaboom. The URL for the site contains the aforementioned name, Elvis8 Atari, and the message displayed on the front page is signed off by a man named Michael T. Matei. How fucking embarrassing. It's bad enough when you defend your shitty practices, but it's even worse when you're pretending to be a fan. Good lord. Mike Matei is the king of oversharing with these posts that no one really asked for. I don't have an exact date on this one, but on Tumblr, at some point he posted this. 2 hours of doggy style on going again. Load was fucking huge. Mike. I'm not gonna spend too much time on this one post, but 2 hours of doggy? Fucking hell, Mike, that's an athletic feat. No doubt the load was huge. Mike does have a tendency to over-exaggerate things though. So I think he was probably just fucking with people, but still, who wants to fucking know? Old Mikey tends to have pretty strong opinions about things as well, such as Disney movies. He got into a little disagreement with a fan over the state of Disney movies, and he famously told this fart knocker to unfollow me, thanks. Speaking of fart knocker, Mike had a very interesting interaction with his girlfriend Erin on Twitter, pretty much laying down the Webster's Dictionary definition of what a fart knocker is. Mike is quite the deviant, but I think we all have a pretty good idea of that by now. One last comment about his junk. YouTube user RickyRico80 states, I see you're gifted with shotgun or MOAD equipment, whatever that means. I feel sorry for Miss Matei. Mike tastefully responds, she usually gets on top so she can control the depth at first, then she gets used to it, it's fine. All while using the Cinemassacre YouTube account, mind you. Class act. One more comment, and this is about Mike's eating habits. If you're expecting Mike to cook you a world-class meal at his fuck shack, then you'd be completely wrong. Twitter users are bewildered at this fact, and Mike doesn't usually cook his own food, but would rather order out. When these Twitter users question Mike about this habit, he responds with, meals as good as chefs from like 100 different restaurants can make? I didn't go to culinary school, I'm not eating some boring grocery store bullshit. You'll eat your fucking TV dinner and you'll like it, maggot. Now I was going to make this topic its own section in the video, but I feel like it belongs in Mike's shit list because I think he was behind most of what happened. Kyle, Justin and Bootsy were good friends of James and Mike and were heavily involved in some of the Cinemassacre's productions. Kyle, as most of you know, wrote and performed the AVGN's famous theme song. He also made some appearances in AVGN videos as the man behind the couch, most notably in Battletoads and Ikari Warriors. Where Did the Hair Go is one of the best songs ever written and I will fight you on that. Kyle also helped build some of the sets like the Nerd Room, so he was more than just an actor / musician. Bootsy was prominently featured in the Board James series, starring as a very exaggerated version of himself, but he also joined the rest of the crew in some other videos. He also had his own series, Bootsy Beats, on Cinemassacre's channel, where he would guide you through a hard game and help you beat it with his own strategy. It unfortunately only had one episode. Both eventually left the channel. Many were left scratching their heads as to why both of them disappeared suddenly and quietly. Some thought that Mike was becoming jealous of Bootsy's obvious gaming talent, kicking him out as a result. Bootsy's last video was a James and Mike Mondays video on Fatal Fury Special in 2016, while Kyle's last video was a behind the scenes video uploaded in 2017, but also filmed in 2016. No one really knew why Kyle left, but someone posted in AVGN claiming to be working with Kyle in the home remodeling business back in 2019. Ranger Arnold goes on to say that Kyle and James had a falling out from money issues and lack of trust. While here it says that James was the cause, I feel like Mike would have also had a hand in this, as I see him more as the brains or the back end of the operation. Bootsy left for mysterious reasons as well, which eventually became clear in a Reddit post he made in the Cinemassacre Truth subreddit in 2019. He goes on to state that money was also the issue behind his absence. He was paid to edit some videos, but received no money for his acting, writing, music, and DVD Blu-ray sales. I honestly don't blame either one of them for leaving, as it's hard to not feel pissed off when you've been working with friends that don't seem to value your work and hard efforts. You could say they're being greedy, but wouldn't you be pissed off too if you worked hard on something and never got paid for it? Either way, it's a shame that both of these lovable characters had to depart from Cinemassacre, and I feel that the greed and hubris of Mike Matei and James Rolfe is another nail in the Cinemassacre coffin. Mike Matei left Cinemassacre in 2020 to focus on his own Twitch career. It looks like it's going pretty well.
Fucking piece of shit! I'll fucking kill you!
So we've heard some tales of greed, unpaid work, massive willies, and a crappy movie. So what else is there? Screenwave Media. As I mentioned before, Cinemassacre was affiliated with Game Trailers and Screw Attack before having some sort of fallout with them in 2014. Just a year after this occurred, Screenwave Media took Cinemassacre under their wing and made some pretty big changes. Suddenly there were 4 new crew members in the Cinemassacre family. Big Ryan, the CEO, Kieran the Caveman, Tony from Smack the Boobies, and the planet Mercury. Nah, I'm only kidding, his name is Justin Silverman. Like Mike, they were initially only behind the scenes working on sets and editing videos, but eventually they started appearing on camera. Believe it or not, Big Ryan's first appearance was in a video named Hosting Cinemassacre from My Basement, uploaded all the way back in 2009, so they've been friends for quite a while. Kieran first appeared in the Rental Reviews Commando video in 2018. Tony from Fuck the Floozies made his first appearance in Mike and Tony Play Shadow of the Colossus, and I'm unsure what Justin Silverman's first appearance was. If anyone knows, please post in the comments below. Like any other community, when much loved characters are replaced, they were in uproar. Who are these fat slobs? The community cried. Now, I'm not speaking for the entire community here when I say that these guys are definitely not as charismatic as Kyle or Bootsy or even Mike, but I personally enjoyed some of the Rental Reviews episodes, as I think they used the friends shooting the shit about random movies formula quite well, minus a big problem. At this point, another decline in quality of AVGN episodes can be seen, as from this point on, most if not all of the script was being written by the Screenwave crew, not James. I think once Screenwave were in the picture, James sort of lost it. It's very clear that his heart isn't in the AVGN anymore, and he should have just hung up the shirt and glasses. The writing for these new episodes definitely isn't up to the gold standard of the classic episodes, with most of the jokes being pee pee poo poo ass ass fuck. It's lacking creativity. It's like as if these new episodes are like fan creations, lacking the passion from the man behind it all. While I'm making it all sound doomy and gloomy, the AVGN and Cinemassacre in general still have a very dedicated fan base that eat up whatever content they crap out. I'll go on the record to say that I generally don't have a problem with the new additions, but it makes me wish that they'd just embark on their own works and not piggyback on the success of the AVGN. I actually like the banter between Tony and Kieran, while James sits there like a wind-up doll saying, yep, Now you've probably noticed that I didn't mention Justin. Yeah, I don't really like him. Justin Silverman has done some questionable things in the past, doing most of that edgy racist humour that Mike revelled in. He was or is friends with a known pedophile, which is dodgy as fuck. He's also generally annoying to look at and listen to, as he's a massive contrarian. I watched about 10 Rental Reviews videos and I noticed that Justin loves to have the opposite opinion of everyone else, just to be special and get attention. People like this are never funny and are just fucking infuriating to be around. He is the living embodiment of the well actually meme. Honestly, just fuck Justin off and the channel would be 50% better than it is now. Kieran also has done some questionable things, like going on drunken Twitter rants about how the community hates him and that all the people on the Cinemassacre troupe are just trolls with no lives. He went on this big crusade to try and get the subreddit removed from Reddit, claiming it to be a hate subreddit when it's just really a bunch of people dissatisfied with the current state Cinemassacre is in. I mean, they do it in the official subreddit, but literally anyone who criticizes the channel is banned. It's like an Orwellian nightmare in there. I don't have any massive problems with Tony, but he does seem to shill himself out a lot, advertising his own channel and Cinemassacre videos quite frequently. The merch on his website is really fucking weird too. Like, who would go out wearing this twerk the booty shirt? I wouldn't be caught dead in this shit. For the record, I don't hate any of the Screenwave media crew, but they have some things to work on. Due to this behaviour and the demeanour of the Screenwave fellas, I think they also play a great part in the decline of Cinemassacre as a whole. While James Rolfe is the face of Cinemassacre, he is the angry video game nerd. I believe that he is also his greatest enemy. I mentioned before that I think his experience with the AVGN movie left him jaded, bruised his ego and shattered his confidence. It ultimately made him dissatisfied with the AVGN character as a whole, so as a result he didn't put in as much effort as he used to in his videos. Since Screenwave took over, the nerd episodes have been stale, lifeless, with no creative charm or flair. It just seems to be James reading a very subpar script while he shills for Raid Shadow Legends or ExpressVPN. Do you think James Rolfe knows what a fucking VPN is? The dude is like the biggest internet boomer other than Darkside Phil. I might do a video on him later too, but it'll be like 2 hours long with all the shit he's done. Anyway, people make him out to be this technological wizard that knows everything about everything. But the dude stored like one AVGN episode on 15 discs or something. Why not get a fucking hard drive? It seems like he's doing everything the hard way. I'm sure Screenwave's intervention has somewhat streamlined the editing process, but you've traded that for a creative bankruptcy. James is no longer the angry video game nerd, he's the mildly befuddled video game nerd. It's clear to me that the creative fires and passion are no longer present in his creations. This has affected his other ventures as well, like his You Know What's Bullshit series. You know what's bullshit? Shortening the name of your series from You Know What's Bullshit to YKWBS because it suits the YouTube algorithm better. I have no doubt that Screenwave is behind this change, but come on James, get some fucking balls and tell them no. It's You Know What's Bullshit, know what, not this YKWBS crap. It might be a pretty minor thing to get upset about, but it just shows how much James is lacking a spine. Would you let some assholes walk in and just tell you what to do or how to title your videos? Fuck no. Even in rental reviews, there were many episodes I've watched where he just didn't watch the entire movie or he'd forget important parts of the movie they were talking about. It would just result in him listening to the other guys whilst repeating yep, yep, ad nauseum. He likes to bring up his kids all the time as well, which annoys the fuck out of me. I don't think anyone really gives a shit about your fuck trophies, dude. Also just read recently that they're working on bringing Monster Madness back this year, a beloved Cinemassacre tradition, but the scripts are being written by someone else. Like, what's the point of having James as the focal point when he doesn't even care enough to write the scripts? Mind you, he'll probably be talking about movies he hasn't even seen, so that'll be fun to watch. He just doesn't give a shit anymore, and it's sad. I wasn't the biggest fan of James and Mike Mondays, but before it ended, you can just see how uninvested James is in the series. Sometimes he looks at the camera with complete and utter disinterest with whatever Mike is saying, and it's kind of fucked up. Like, yeah, Mike can be totally fucking annoying, I get it, but at least try to act interested on camera. It's honestly fucking rude and it just shows how much of an arse he can be. There are times where it looks like he's about to doze off. Like, what the fuck is he doing that's making him so tired?
RC program where you put it in for 20 minutes, you know, this is some shit.
Yeah.
Oh my god, did you see that?
Wow.
Did you see what just happened?
No, what happened?
Okay, so I was just fighting a Eskimo, and I killed him, and a penguin spawned in the exact same spot.
Is that what happened?
There was no way that I would have known, because it spawned.
He barely works on any project, so I don't know what's eating up all his time. Speaking of time, I'm also going to talk about the infamous 540 incident. This all happened on the second part of the James and Mike Mondays episode for Mega Man X, where they get up to a boss and James says that he has to beat the boss now, otherwise he'll have to do it another time, as 540 is coming and he has to leave by 540.
Let's break it.
Alright. Well, anyway, that's it. We just ran out of time because I have to be done at 540 right now. And
so what's gonna happen is
exactly 540.
Next time you see this, James is gonna beat this on his own.
I'll try,
without me, because the way we record, so.
Yeah.
That's fair enough, but he acts so fucking weird when this is brought up. Like, you can see the absolute fear in his eyes when he says it, like as if the whole world ends if he doesn't go upstairs by 540. April must really crack the whip. Also, one more thing on this whole time crisis thing. People have reportedly asked James about a possible sequel to the AVGN movie for whatever reason, and he actually responded with, "I shit you not, it's highly unlikely because of the lack of time. There are not enough hours in a day for him to do anything." The dude couldn't even act in King Kong vs Godzilla in a small scene because of lack of time. Way to shoot yourself in the foot. I'm sure there are many more incidents of James' strange behaviour I could bring up, but these are the ones that I think are the most relevant to the downfall of Cinemassacre.
It's tough to make a video about not having much time when you don't have much time.
So what does the future hold for Cinemassacre? Well, it doesn't look like Screenwave Media going anywhere anytime soon, so I guess we'll have many years of incredibly subpar AVGN videos until James Rolfe eventually retires and lets Justin Silverman take his rightful place as the new nerd. I honestly think the best thing for James to do is to go independent again, bring back Kyle, Bootsy, and possibly Mike as a wild card and work on the AVGN just like the good old days. Sure, the episodes will probably come out really slow, but it'll be 100 times better than whatever shit is being slopped out now. There's a very low chance of this happening though, as James seems to act very indifferently about Kyle and Bootsy. He was once asked at a panel about how Bootsy was doing, and he responded with the most boilerplate statement of, "He's still around, nothing but good memories." Makes him sound like he's fucking dead or something. The channel is currently not doing horribly, but people have noticed that it is taking longer for each subsequent nerd episode to reach 1 million views, which signals a slow but painful decline in viewership. The people will eventually make a decision, and I think James will eventually have to make a decision as well, but right now he doesn't have the time for that. Right now he has to focus on his midlife crisis project Rex Viper. He's still hip and groovy, everyone. I could go on about Cinemassacre and James Rolfe all day, but it's 5:40. I have to go look after my kids. So unfortunately I have to end the video now. But thank you guys for watching, and especially a big thank you to the guys at the Cinemassacre Truth subreddit for helping me piece together this video. You've been a great help. Hope you enjoyed me rant and ramble about Cinemassacre for like 20 minutes or something, and I hope you have a lovely day. Cheers.
You did say that it's all for the best because of that. Say that it's just what we need. You decided this. Say what did you say?
Out of time because I have to be done at 5:40 right now.